Imagine training your whole life for one moment. One moment that would put your name in the history books. One moment that would make an entire country proud. Now imagine that moment being taken away. Not because you failed, but because of where you were born. On a Saturday in June 2026, Omar Abdulkadir Artan, Africa's best referee, a man hand-picked by FIFA to officiate at the greatest sporting event on the planet, landed at Miami International Airport ready for his World Cup debut. 11 hours later, he was on a plane home. Not because he did anything wrong. Not because of his record. Not because of his character. Because of his passport. But this story doesn't end at that airport gate, because what happened next, that is something the United States did not see coming. To understand why this story hit the world so hard, you need to know who Omar Artan actually is. Born in Mogadishu, Somalia in 1992, Omar grew up during one of the most chaotic periods in his country's history. Somalia's civil war had torn the country apart. There was barely a functioning government, let alone a functioning football league. But football always found a way to survive. While most kids dreamed of scoring goals, Omar had a different passion. He loved refereeing. Even as a teenager, he would play half a game of football, then sprint off the pitch to referee another match. He wasn't just passionate, he was obsessive, he was driven, and he was good. By 2018, Omar had worked his way onto FIFA's international referees list, a massive achievement for any official, but something almost unheard of from a country like Somalia. Then came 2024, the Africa Cup of Nations in Ivory Coast. And Omar Artan made history as the first Somali referee ever to officiate at AFCON. Let that sink in. The first ever. His first match? Tunisia versus Namibia, a shock upset. Thousands of Somalis who had never had a reason to watch AFCON tuned in just to see their man on the pitch. Somali journalists described it as a groundbreaking moment for an entire nation, but he wasn't done. In 2025, he became the first Somali referee to take charge of a CAF Champions League final, overseeing Pyramids FC versus Mamelodi Sundowns in Cairo. And to cap it all, CAF named him African Referee of the Year 2025. The best referee on an entire continent of 1.4 billion people. When FIFA announced their referees for the 2026 World Cup, Omar Artan's name was on the list. He was going to become the first Somali official ever at a World Cup an entire country was about to celebrate. On Saturday, June 7, 2026, Omar Artan boarded a flight from Istanbul, Turkey, bound for Miami, Florida. He had his FIFA credentials, he had a valid visa. He even had a diplomatic passport issued by the Somali government specifically to help smooth his passage into the United States. He had done everything right, every single box was ticked. At Miami International Airport, U.S. Customs and Border Protection pulled him aside. For 11 hours, Omar Artan sat in a questioning room. Border agents asked him about Somali politics. They asked him about the militant group Al-Shabaab. They questioned why he was traveling to the U.S. He showed them his FIFA documentation. He showed them photos from his refereeing career spanning nearly a decade. He explained exactly who he was. It made no difference. At the end of those 11 hours, he was put in a holding cell and placed on a plane back to Istanbul. He told the New York Times, "I think that they have a problem with my country. I had the correct visa. I had the correct documents." The official U.S. statement cited only vetting concerns. An anonymous U.S. official later told reporters that Artan had been denied entry due to, quote, association with suspected members of terror organizations, without specifying any organization, any names, or any evidence. Somalia is subject to strict U.S. travel restrictions, and while exemptions existed on paper for World Cup participants, border agents have wide discretionary power. Neither a World Cup visa nor a diplomatic passport was enough to protect Omar Artan at that door. His dream, his biggest dream in life, was over. Just like that. The news spread like wildfire, and the reaction was immediate and fierce. From football fans to politicians, from African football associations to human rights advocates, people were furious. Andrew Giuliani, the executive director of the White House FIFA task force, said Artan had been denied entry for, quote, very good reason, but offered absolutely no details. Homeland Security Secretary Markwayne Mullin doubled down. Policies are, we're not going to allow people that have criminal or maybe perceived to have criminal ties to come into this country. I don't care what your situation is. And then FIFA President Gianni Infantino spoke. The man who runs global football, the man who had championed this World Cup as a festival of unity and inclusion. His response, quote, chill and relax. Chill and Relax. Infantino added that FIFA is a sports organization and cannot dictate to governments or police. He called the situation unfortunate, said FIFA would discuss and speak, and essentially washed their hands of the entire thing. Critics were scathing. Here was a World Cup that had marketed itself as a festival of inclusion, hosted in a country that had just turned away Africa's best referee at the border. And the response from football's leadership was to tell people to calm down. But while the argument raged in press rooms and TV studios across the world, something remarkable was happening back home. When Omar Artan landed back in Somalia, he was given a hero's welcome. Crowds met him at Aden Abdullah Osman International Airport in Mogadishu. His country didn't see a man who had been rejected. They saw a man who had been wronged, and they were rallying around him. CAF President Dr. Patrice Motsepe issued a statement. Omar Artan has made Somalia and the entire people of the African continent extremely proud. Now here is where the story takes a turn that nobody fully expected. While the debate raged over what had happened to Omar Artan, UEFA, European football's governing body, was paying close attention. In consultation with CAF, UEFA made an announcement that sent a very clear message to the entire football world. Omar Abdulkadir Artan had been appointed to referee the 2026 UEFA Super Cup Final. On August 12th in Salzburg, Austria, PSG, the Champions League winners, versus Aston Villa, the Europa League holders, one of European football's most prestigious annual showpiece events. And the man with the whistle? The man America turned away from its border? He will be standing in the center of that pitch. UEFA's statement made their message unmistakably clear. UEFA and CAF are united by a shared commitment to developing football at all levels and promoting the core values of unity, equality, and non-discrimination. They weren't just giving Omar Artan a match to referee, they were making a statement about what football is supposed to stand for. CAF's president Motsepe called it an excellent example of football, bringing together and uniting people from Africa and Europe and worldwide. Think about the contrast for a moment. One of the most powerful nations on earth, host of the World Cup, turned this man away at its border. And within days, European football gave him one of the highest profile matches on the calendar. Football gave Omar Artan what a passport could not. So what does this story actually mean? Why should you care beyond the headlines? Because this isn't really about one referee. It's about something much bigger. It's about what happens when the world's biggest sporting event is hosted by a country that applies immigration rules in ways that contradict the very values that football is supposed to represent. It's about a man from one of the most overlooked countries on earth, a country that has never qualified for a World Cup, rising through sheer talent and dedication to reach the absolute pinnacle of his profession. It's about how institutions respond when something wrong happens. FIFA said chill and relax. UEFA gave him a Super Cup final. And it's about Omar Artan himself, a man who spent 11 hours in a detention room, who was sent home in humiliation, who had the biggest dream of his life snatched from him, and who did not break. He will walk onto that pitch in Salzburg on August 12th. He will blow that whistle, and every single person watching will know his story. America closed a door, Europe opened a stadium, and sometimes that's the most powerful response of all.